Hello to those joining us on YouTube this morning, well, whenever you're watching. Today's theme, as I mentioned during the readings, is gratitude. Probably not shocking, considering that Thanksgiving is this week. Yes, it is this week. I thought I had an extra week, but I don't. Coming up quick. So Thanksgiving's history traces back to 1621, when the Plymouth colonists and the Wampanoag people shared a harvest feast. President Abraham Lincoln declared a national Thanksgiving in 1863, and President Franklin Roosevelt later standardized the date to the fourth Thursday in November. So we have one day that's set aside for Thanksgiving, but I think that we need to think about gratitude in that sense, but also in a much broader sense. So not only Thanksgiving Day, but thanks living, how we're living gratitude in our lives. So gratitude runs along the same lines as humility, because it's not something we simply wake up with one day. It's something that needs to be practiced and cultivated. But the process itself and the results and outcomes are so worth it. Cultivating gratitude can profoundly transform our perspective, leading to greater happiness and personal growth. Even small acts of appreciation can create ripple effects that positively impact our relationships and our lives on every level. In case you need some convincing, here are some noted benefits of gratitude. There's a strong link between gratitude and our mental health, our mental well-being. Practices of gratitude can significantly improve mood, reduce stress, and increase overall happiness. Expressing gratitude strengthens personal relationships by fostering mutual respect and appreciation. It builds stronger connections and reduces conflict within families, friendships, and professional environments. Gratitude enhances workplace culture, improves employee morale, and boosts productivity. Leaders who show appreciation for their teams often see higher levels of engagement and loyalty. Gratitude has been shown to increase resilience in individuals by focusing on positive aspects and what one is thankful for. People can better cope with adverse situations and recover more quickly from setbacks. Acts of gratitude and appreciation help in building and sustaining communities. Volunteerism and philanthropic activities are driven by a sense of giving back, which is rooted in gratitude. Well, that's a lot of benefits. But you know what? There are a lot of times I don't feel grateful. I don't feel like giving thanks. Because it's easy to be grateful when things are going along swimmingly. It's much harder when we are experiencing a difficult time. But here's the thing. Since gratitude is something that can be cultivated, it's kind of like a muscle to be strengthened, we can practice tapping into that in our everyday life. So when we find ourselves in challenging times, our gratitude muscle is strong, because that's when we're going to need it the most. And there is something to be said about hard times allowing us to better appreciate the good times. Because if we never had hurdles to overcome, would we be able to appreciate how wonderful those smooth times are? Now, I'm not saying that we like the hurdles or that we would sign up for them, but nonetheless, life has its seasons of sunshine and clouds and rain and drought. We can't change that. We can only control how we respond to the hurdles. So I attended a Caron gratitude breakfast yesterday near Philly, and there were speakers and music and fellowship. Dr. Eric Weber, aka Bowtie, talked about his take on gratitude, and I'll quote him. He said, "Gratitude helps us make meaning, to take the challenging times and find the gratitude. To find some meaning, some purpose, some lesson in it. It doesn't necessarily mean we are thankful for the hard thing itself, but there is always something for which to be grateful in or around or that results from circumstances. Dr. Weber said that gratitude is the antidote to resentment. And my sponsor once told me that as addicts, we don't have the luxury of resentments. When we chronically complain, we are adding fuel to the fire of resentments. Resentments will just cause us to pick up if we do not deal with them and let them go. I find that I can't complain if I am living in an attitude of gratitude. And if I catch myself complaining, which I do frequently, I try to make a game out of finding the gratitude in whatever it is. So my complaint might be, I am so sick of all this traffic. Gratitude. I am thankful for a safe and reliable vehicle to get me places, for smooth roads to drive on, for enough money to fill up the gas tank, and so on. It changes my perspective from resentment, self-pity, and complaining to thankfulness and genuine appreciation for my life in that moment. Yes, sitting in traffic is still frustrating, but like the saying goes, you may be given a cactus, but you don't have to sit on it. Please hear me when I say that I am not endorsing or talking about toxic positivity. When life is hard, as it frequently is, toxic positivity says no bad vibes allowed, glossing over the truly difficult things life throws our way. Cultivating gratitude is not that. Cultivating gratitude is acknowledging the difficulty and feeling our feelings about that, and in addition, finding the gratitude in the situation. Something or things for which to be grateful despite the hard things. So let's break it down a bit more by talking about what Dr. Angelina Lippman calls the chain of gratitude. It's a 3-link chain that starts with acceptance, applies empathy, and then gratitude. This helps us to get to gratitude in a little bit more organic way. So let's continue on with this traffic example. I accept I'm sitting in traffic and I'm going to be late. That doesn't mean I like it, but I am accepting reality for what it is in the moment. When I practice acceptance, I am able to move forward with clarity. So let's say this traffic standstill is caused by an accident up ahead. While I am sitting in my car, frustrated by this slight inconvenience that I've accepted at this point, empathy takes me to the people who were involved in the accident. Because if this is inconvenient for me, what about them? Being in a car accident or a fender bender is scary and unnerving and anxiety-producing when you think about tickets and insurance and financial implications, not to mention if someone got hurt and had to go to the hospital. So all of a sudden, my tiny inconvenience dissolves, and I pray for anyone involved in that accident. I pray for the first responders who are helping. I pray for the patience of all the frustrated drivers on the highway. My perspective shifted from self to others, and then in prayer. At this point in the mental chain, gratitude is much easier to get to. I am genuinely grateful that my family and I are safe, that my car is working and not banged up or totaled, and that I will be able to go on my way with my day as normal after I get off this highway. Although it takes practice, these are things that in recovery are possible for us to achieve thanks to our sobriety and working a program. So what are some other ways that we can cultivate and practice gratitude in our everyday lives? Being mindful and present in the moment are wonderful ways to do that. For example, eating mindfully is something that will slow you down. Savor each smell and texture, each taste, every bite of your food, to truly appreciate the food and enjoy the process of eating. Sometimes I think I don't even chew my food. It really slows us down. Another way is to visually take time to appreciate something. Look at a flower. Look at a tree outside, a leaf. Look at a picture that's on the wall and just really look at all the details. What stands out to you? What do you notice about that? Just take, 30 seconds to really appreciate something visually. Being in the present moment allows us to actually live our lives in this moment, which is all that's promised to us, not living in the past and not living in the future. Slowing things down and noticing things in this moment is necessary for gratitude to take root. Rushing is the enemy of our well-being on every level. A gratitude journal is another way that we can enter into this process. This is a helpful practice. It can be a fancy journal or a spiral notebook or a legal pad. You can even have a gratitude box where you put in a piece of paper every day with something you feel thankful for. My friend Sherry got me this gratitude jar for Christmas last year, and she also gave me some really pretty pieces of paper tied up with a nice little bow for me to put in a piece of paper about what I'm thankful for in that moment. And, we can record our gratitudes and however you like for a week or a month or a year, and then go through them and read them and literally count all the blessings in our lives. I read a story about a woman who challenged herself to write down 5 things a day for a year that she was grateful for with no repeats. No repeats. The results were a marked increase in her awareness, her appreciation for life, and her thankfulness in general. Her gratitude muscle was incredibly strong by the end of that year. She found gratitude everywhere, in everything, without even really trying by the end of this exercise. It was a huge swing in her perspective on life. It changed everything for her. Now, if 5 things seems like too many, then do 3, or do 1 a day. When we're practicing these things, we need to start with a sustainable practice, and that varies from person to person. We can always build up if we're able, but we want to start with something that's attainable for our life, especially to start. That will help us build momentum and confidence. Service is another way to grow our gratitude. Doing service cultivates gratitude, just like it cultivates humility. Again, because of that shift from self to others is incredibly helpful in our journey of recovery and life. Prayer and our time with our higher power is yet another way we can practice gratitude. When I pray, I try to start with several things that I'm thankful for. It might be today, God, thank you for my loving husband, my intelligent and healthy children, a hot shower this morning, and our home. Tomorrow it might be, God, thank you for my job that provides meaning and income, my car that gets me places, even if I have to sit in traffic, but thank you, my comfy bed, and for my pets. Acknowledging our higher power's role in the good things in our lives is paramount to our understanding and the living out of our gratitude practice. Because whatever we focus on gets bigger. I'll say that again. Whatever we focus on gets bigger. So if we fixate on our problems, they will get bigger. Yes, we need to address issues that come up in our lives, but there is a difference between finding solutions and obsessive and anxious thoughts. Fixating on bad things, difficult things, unfair things, unfortunate things causes anxiety. Focusing on and trusting our higher power will cause higher power's influence to get bigger in our lives. It falls along the lines of what we put out to the universe will come back to us. One of our readings today says to focus on beauty and truth. to meditate on whatever is honorable, right, pure, lovely, good, virtuous, and praiseworthy. Not ignoring difficulties, because they are certainly real, but what is our main focus in our lives? Is it gratitude? I can deal with the challenging things over here in my life, because there are a lot of challenging things, but I can still keep my ship pointed toward the horizon of pure, good, and lovely things in life and in the world, because there are plenty of them. It may not seem like it, because for survival purposes, we are wired to notice the negative more than the positive, but we don't have to be a slave to that. We can shift our perspective. It is possible. Gratitude for all the good things in life produces peace and love and joy within us and within our relationships. And I think we can all agree that these are things we want in our lives. And thanks to our higher power and our recovery journey, these are real possibilities. I don't know about you, but I am thankful for that fact. So I'll leave you with a quote from Melody Beattie. She says, "Gratitude unlocks the fullness of life. It turns what we have into enough and more. It turns denial into acceptance, chaos into order, confusion into clarity." So let's take a few moments of silent reflection. And I invite you to think about what it might look like for you to practice gratitude more frequently in your everyday life. Whether it's expressing it to others, doing service, prayer, mindfulness, a gratitude journal, or something else. So let's take a few moments. Amen.